Australia, a land of ancient landscapes and vibrant stories, also holds secrets beneath the still surfaces of its many lakes. From the ghostly whispers echoing across vast, empty salt pans to the lingering sadness beneath the depths of man-made reservoirs, these waters hold tales that chill the spine and stir the soul. Join us as we delve into the legends and unexplained occurrences surrounding some of Australia's most haunting lakes, where history, tragedy, and the ethereal converge. Prepare to listen closely, for the water remembers. 10. Lake Mungo, New South Wales. Lake Mungo, located in the arid landscape of southwestern New South Wales, is a place of immense archaeological and cultural significance, holding some of the oldest human remains ever discovered in Australia. Its history stretches back tens of thousands of years, long before European arrival. While not traditionally associated with ghost stories in the conventional sense, Lake Mungo possesses a powerful spiritual presence and a history marked by ancient burials and the profound connection of indigenous people to this land, which can evoke a unique sense of mystery and the presence of the past. For at least 50,000 years, the Willandra Lakes region, of which Lake Mungo is a central feature, has been home to Aboriginal people. Archaeological discoveries around the shores of the now dry Lake Mungo, including the remains of Mungo Man and Mungo Lady, have provided invaluable insights into the lives and burial practices of these early Australians. These findings indicate sophisticated rituals and a deep spiritual connection to the land. Lake Mungo would have been a vital resource, its shores supporting plant and animal life, and its landscape imbued with dreamtime stories and ancestral significance. Over millennia, the climate shifted, and Lake Mungo gradually dried up. The once lush environment transitioned into the arid semi-desert landscape seen today, leaving behind lunettes, crescent-shaped dunes, that hold the secrets of the past. The haunted aspect of Lake Mungo is less about restless spirits and more about a powerful sense of ancient presence, the weight of its deep indigenous history, and the profound spiritual connection of Aboriginal people to this land. The landscape itself seems to hold the echoes of tens of thousands of years of human existence and burial. Key contributing factors include ancient burial sites, the discovery of Mungo Man and Mungo Lady, along with numerous other burial sites around the lake, underscores the area's significance as a final resting place for generations of indigenous people. This can evoke a powerful feeling of the past being very close. Dreamtime stories, the traditional stories of the local Aboriginal groups are deeply intertwined with the landscape of Lake Mungo, explaining its creation and the presence of ancestral beings. These stories imbue the land with a spiritual significance that can be felt by visitors. The stark and ancient landscape, the dry lake bed and the dramatic lunettes, shaped by millennia of wind and erosion, create a stark and timeless landscape that can feel both awe-inspiring and subtly unsettling, as if one is walking through a vast, ancient cemetery. A sense of being watched. Some visitors report feeling a sense of being watched or a profound connection to the past while at Lake Mungo, a feeling that goes beyond the visual landscape and touches on a deeper, spiritual level. Incidents and encounters. A deep connection to the past. Many visitors describe feeling a strong sense of connection to the ancient history of the site and the presence of the indigenous ancestors who lived and were buried there. The silence and isolation, the vastness and silence of the landscape can be profound, creating an environment where one might feel more attuned to subtle energies or unexplained feelings. The power of the landscape, the dramatic and ancient formations of the lunettes, particularly at sunrise or sunset, can evoke a sense of wonder and the immensity of time, potentially leading to a feeling of something beyond the ordinary. Respect and reverence. Many visitors feel a strong sense of respect and reverence for the land and its indigenous history, which can be interpreted as a feeling of the past being present. It is crucial to approach Lake Mungo with respect for its profound cultural and archaeological significance. The haunting here is not one of fear, but of a deep connection to a very ancient past and the enduring spiritual presence of the land's traditional owners. 9. Lake Jindabyne, New South Wales. Lake Jindabyne, nestled in the snowy mountains of New South Wales, is a stunning alpine lake created by the damming of the Snowy River as part of the Snowy Mountains scheme. Like Lake Hume, its formation involved the deliberate inundation of an existing town, a fact that lies at the heart of its haunted reputation. Before the creation of Lake Jindabyne, the area was a picturesque valley dotted with farmland and the small, close-knit town of Jindabyne. This original Jindabyne was a service center for the surrounding agricultural region and a gateway to the burgeoning skiing industry in the snowy mountains. The Snowy River meandered through the valley, a vital waterway for the area. The community, though small, had a strong sense of identity and deep roots in the landscape. The ambitious Snowy Mountain Scheme, a massive hydroelectric and irrigation project, was initiated in the mid-20th century. A key component of this scheme was the construction of the Jindabyne Dam, which would require the complete flooding of the existing town. Residents were faced with the difficult decision to relocate, and the town was gradually dismantled. Some buildings were moved to the new Jindabyne town site on higher ground, but many others were left to be submerged as the lake filled in the late 1960s. The old town, including its buildings, roads, and even the cemetery, with remains exhumed and reinterred, now rests beneath the waters of Lake Jindabyne. The deliberate submergence of the original Jindabyne is the primary reason for the lake's haunted reputation. The idea of a complete town lying beneath the surface sparks the imagination and leads to tales of lingering echoes of the past. Key contributing factors include submerged town, the knowledge that homes, businesses, and the infrastructure of an entire town are submerged creates a powerful and somewhat unsettling image. People naturally wonder if any remnants or energies remain. Displacement and loss, the forced relocation of the town's residents would have been a significant emotional event, potentially leaving behind a sense of loss or unfinished business connected to their former homes and community. The lake's atmosphere, the vastness and often still, reflective surface of the alpine lake can create an eerie and contemplative atmosphere, particularly during quieter times or in certain weather conditions. Incidents and encounters. Submerged sounds. Some people have reported hearing faint, muffled sounds rising from the depths of the lake, particularly on calm days. These are sometimes interpreted as the echoes of the old town, perhaps the distant sounds of machinery or even voices. Visual anomalies. There are occasional stories of strange shapes or indistinct outlines being seen beneath the surface of the water, especially during periods of low water levels, leading to speculation about glimpses of the submerged town. Feelings of unease. Visitors to certain parts of the lake or its shoreline have reported experiencing sudden feelings of sadness, unease, or a sense of a past presence, particularly in areas that would have been central to the old town. The legend of the church bell. Like other submerged towns with churches, Jindabyne has its own version of the legend of the sunken church bell, with some claiming to have heard its faint tolling on still nights, carried across the water. Encounters near the old cemetery site. Even though the cemetery was relocated, some believe that a residual energy or the spirits of those who were originally buried there might still linger in the vicinity of the original site, now under or near the lake's edge. It's important to approach these accounts with a balanced perspective, recognizing the power of suggestion and the profound impact the knowledge of the submerged town has on the imagination. However, the persistence of these stories within the local community speaks to a lingering connection to the past that lies beneath the surface of Lake Jindabyne. 8. Lake Hume, New South Wales/Victoria border. Lake Hume, straddling the border of New South Wales and Victoria, is a vast reservoir created by the Hume Dam on the Murray River. Its formation in the mid-20th century led to the inundation of several towns and significant disruption to the landscape, a history that has inevitably woven itself into tales of lingering spirits and unexplained occurrences. Before the waters of Lake Hume rose, the Murray River Valley in this region was home to fertile farmland and several small, close-knit communities. The most significant of these were the towns of Midda, Tallangatta, Bellbridge, and Bouna. These towns had their own distinct histories, economies based largely on agriculture and timber, and generations of families who called them home. The landscape was characterized by rolling hills, the meandering Murray and Midda rivers, and pockets of bushland. The decision to build the Hume Dam, primarily for irrigation and flood control, was made in the early 20th century. The subsequent construction and filling of the reservoir in the 1930s and later expansions in the 1950s and 1960s meant the gradual submergence of these existing towns. Buildings were either relocated, dismantled, or simply left to be swallowed by the rising waters. Cemeteries were exhumed and moved to higher ground, but the very foundations of these communities now lie beneath the lake's surface. The creation of Lake Hume, with its submerged towns and the displacement of its former residents, is the primary source of its haunted reputation. The idea of entire communities lying beneath the water naturally sparks tales of lingering spirits and echoes of the past. Key contributing factors include submerged towns, the knowledge that homes, businesses, and the very fabric of these towns now rest at the bottom of the lake is a powerful and evocative image, inevitably leading to speculation about what might remain. Displacement and loss, the forced relocation of families and the loss of their homes and communities would have been a deeply emotional experience, potentially leaving behind a sense of unresolved sorrow or lingering attachment. Tragic accidents, over the years, as a large body of water used for recreation, Lake Hume has unfortunately been the site of drownings and other accidents, which can contribute to folklore about restless spirits. Atmospheric conditions, the vast expanse of the lake, particularly on misty mornings or still evenings, can create an eerie atmosphere that lends itself to ghostly imaginings. Incidents and encounters. Submerged sounds, some people have reported hearing faint, muffled sounds emanating from the lake, particularly in areas where the old towns once stood. These are sometimes interpreted as echoes of the past, the sounds of machinery, voices, or even music. Unexplained feelings of sadness, visitors to certain parts of the lake, especially near where the main towns were located, have described experiencing sudden and inexplicable feelings of sadness or unease. Visual anomalies, there are occasional stories of strange shapes or lights seen on or near the water, particularly at night, that defy easy explanation. Some speculate these could be related to the submerged structures or residual energy. The legend of the sunken church, the Mida Church was one of the more prominent buildings submerged. Local legends sometimes speak of its bell tolling faintly on still nights or its ghostly silhouette appearing beneath the surface. Encounters near the old cemetery sites, even though the cemeteries were relocated, some believe that a residual energy or the spirits of those buried there might still linger in the vicinity of the original sites. It's important to approach these accounts with a degree of healthy skepticism, recognizing the power of suggestion and the way the knowledge of the submerged towns can influence perception. However, the persistence of these stories within the local communities indicates a strong sense of the past still resonating with the present at Lake Hume. 7. Lake Hart, South Australia. Lake Hart in South Australia is a vast, shimmering salt lake that dominates the arid landscape. Its history is one of ancient geological processes and more recent human endeavors, primarily salt extraction. While not traditionally associated with ghost stories in the vein of haunted houses, Lake Hart possesses a stark, otherworldly beauty that, combined with its history and isolation, can evoke a sense of mystery and perhaps even unease. Long before European settlement, Lake Hart was a natural salt pan, formed by the evaporation of ancient inland seas. For countless generations, it would have been part of the traditional lands of the local Aboriginal people, who likely utilized its resources and incorporated it into their stories and understanding of the landscape. The vast, white expanse would have been a significant feature of their environment. European exploration of the area occurred in the mid-19th century. The lake was named after John Hart, who was Premier of South Australia on 3 occasions. Its most significant history post-European arrival is its role in salt production. Commercial salt harvesting began in the late 1880s and continued for over a century, shaping the lake's appearance with railway lines and infrastructure extending across its surface. Isolation and vastness, the sheer scale of the salt lake, stretching seemingly endlessly under the vast Australian sky, can create a sense of isolation and being dwarfed by the landscape. This can sometimes evoke a feeling of unease or being on the edge of the known world. The remains of industry, the abandoned railway lines, pylons, and remnants of the salt harvesting operations that still crisscross the lakebed can create a stark and somewhat eerie scene. These decaying structures whisper tales of past human activity in this desolate environment. The unearthly beauty, the blinding white expanse of the salt crust, particularly under a harsh sun or a full moon, can feel otherworldly and surreal. This stark beauty might be interpreted by some as having a slightly unsettling quality. The silence, the profound silence that can descend upon the lake, broken only by the wind, can be both captivating and slightly unnerving, allowing for the imagination to wander. Incidents and encounters. A sense of being watched. Some visitors to the more remote parts of the lake have described a feeling of being watched or an awareness of a presence, possibly amplified by the vast emptiness and silence. Optical illusions. The shimmering heat haze and the endless white expanse can play tricks on the eyes, creating mirages and indistinct shapes in the distance that might be misinterpreted as something else. The whispers of the wind whistling across the flat, salty surface can sometimes create eerie sounds that might be attributed to unseen entities by those with a more imaginative disposition. The remnants of the past, the decaying industrial infrastructure can evoke a sense of the human endeavors that once dominated this landscape, perhaps leading to a feeling of the past lingering in the air. It's important to note that the haunting of Lake Hart is more about a powerful sense of place, the echoes of past industry, and the raw, sometimes unsettling beauty of the Australian outback rather than traditional ghost stories. 6. Lake McKenzie, Fraser Island, Queensland. Lake McKenzie, or Burangura to the Buchulla people, nestled high in the sand dunes of Kari, Fraser Island, Queensland, is a place of breathtaking beauty. Its crystal-clear waters and pure white silica sands create an almost ethereal atmosphere. While not steeped in traditional ghost stories in the same way as some other locations, Lake McKenzie possesses a unique spiritual significance and has witnessed its share of human drama, contributing to a subtle sense of mystery. For millennia, Lake McKenzie has been an integral part of the Buchulla people's land and culture. The name Burangura translates roughly to waters of wisdom. The lake and its surrounding environment hold deep spiritual meaning, featuring in their stories and traditions. The pristine nature of the lake, untouched by streams flowing in or out, speaks to its ancient and self-contained existence within the massive sand island. European explorers arrived on Fraser Island in the late 18th century, but it wasn't until much later that Lake McKenzie became a recognized landmark for non-Indigenous people. Its stunning beauty quickly made it a popular destination for visitors as Fraser Island's natural wonders became more widely appreciated. The haunted aspect of Lake McKenzie is less about ghostly apparitions and more about a profound sense of place, the weight of its indigenous history, and the occasional stark reminders of human vulnerability in such a powerful natural environment. The pristine and seemingly untouched nature of the lake can evoke a feeling of being in a place outside of the ordinary, where the veil between worlds might feel thin. Spiritual significance. The enduring connection of the Buchulla people to the land and the lake's importance in their traditions imbue the area with a palpable spiritual presence. Visitors might sense this deep connection to the past. The power of nature. Fraser Island, with its immense sand dunes, ancient rainforests growing in sand, and unpredictable ocean currents, is a powerful reminder of nature's force. Lake McKenzie, a tranquil oasis within this wild landscape, can feel both serene and subtly awe-inspiring, perhaps even a little unnerving in its isolation. Tragic accidents. Fraser Island, despite its beauty, can be dangerous. While specific tragic incidents at Lake McKenzie might not be widely publicized as hauntings, the knowledge of the island's potential hazards can contribute to a sense of caution and awareness of past vulnerabilities. Incidents and encounters. A sense of ancient presence. Some visitors describe feeling a profound connection to the land and its indigenous history, a sense of being in a place where time moves differently and the spirits of the past are close. The stillness and silence. The remarkable clarity of the water and the often profound silence surrounding the lake can create an introspective atmosphere, where one might feel more attuned to subtle energies or unexplained feelings. Wildlife encounters in isolation. Being alone at the lake, surrounded by the unique wildlife of Fraser Island, can evoke a sense of being far removed from the everyday world, potentially leading to heightened senses and interpretations of natural sounds or movements. It's crucial to appreciate that the haunting of Lake McKenzie is more about a deep spiritual resonance and the powerful presence of nature and indigenous history rather than traditional ghost stories. 5. Lake Eacham, Queensland. Lake Eacham, nestled in the wet tropics of Queensland, is a stunning crater lake formed by a volcanic eruption thousands of years ago. Its tranquil beauty belies a history intertwined with Aboriginal legend and, more recently, whispers of unexplained occurrences. Long before European arrival, Lake Eacham, or Yidiam to the local Ngajinji people, held deep spiritual significance. Their Dreamtime stories speak of the lake's creation as the result of a powerful volcanic eruption caused by the breaking of a sacred law. The legends tell of the Waway, or rainbow serpent, being disturbed, leading to earth-shattering tremors and the formation of the lake. The surrounding rainforest was, and continues to be, a vital resource and sacred place for the indigenous people. European explorers first encountered the lake in the late 19th century. Its natural beauty quickly made it a popular spot for recreation. The area was eventually gazetted as a national park, preserving its pristine environment. The power of legend, the strong Aboriginal Dreamtime stories about the lake's creation imbue the location with a sense of ancient power and potential spiritual presence. Visitors might feel a connection to these stories, leading to a heightened sense of the lake's significance. Unexplained feelings. Some visitors report feeling a sense of profound tranquility mixed with a subtle undercurrent of mystery or ancient energy while at the lake. This isn't necessarily fear, but a feeling that the place holds a deeper story. Wildlife encounters. While not strictly haunted, the unique wildlife of the area, such as the freshwater crocodiles that inhabit the lake, can add to a sense of the wild and perhaps the unknown. It's important to understand that the haunting of Lake Eacham is more likely tied to a sense of spiritual significance and the powerful stories associated with its creation rather than traditional ghost stories linked to human tragedy. 4. Lake Eildon, Victoria. Lake Eildon in Victoria is a sprawling artificial lake with a fascinating history deeply intertwined with the landscape it now dominates. While its primary purpose is water storage and recreation, the creation of Lake Eildon involved the submergence of entire towns, a fact that inevitably contributes to tales of lingering spirits and a sense of the past beneath the surface. Before the formation of Lake Eildon, the Goulburn River Valley was a patchwork of fertile farmland and small settlements. The most significant of these were the towns of Eildon, originally called Jerusalem Flat, Darlingford, and Upper Thornton. These communities, though relatively small, had their own histories, families, and stories. The construction of the original Eildon in the 1910s led to some initial disruption, but the major transformation occurred in the 1950s with the building of the much larger Eildon Dam. This ambitious project required the complete inundation of the existing towns. Residents were relocated, houses and buildings were dismantled or submerged, and the landscape was permanently altered. This displacement and the literal burying of entire communities under the waters of the new lake form a significant backdrop to any discussion of its history and, inevitably, its haunted reputation. Submerged structures. The idea that remnants of the old towns, foundations, roads, even cemeteries, still exist beneath the surface leads to speculation about residual energy or ghostly activity associated with these places. Some tales suggest that on very still days, faint outlines of old structures can be seen just below the surface, or that divers have encountered unsettling remnants of the past. Unexplained sounds on the water. Boaters and those staying near the lake have sometimes reported hearing faint sounds, whispers, echoes of voices, or even the distant sounds of machinery, that seem to have no clear origin, leading to speculation about echoes from the submerged towns. Feelings of unease. Certain areas of the lake or its shoreline are sometimes associated with feelings of unease, being watched, or a sudden drop in temperature, which some attribute to the lingering presence of those who were displaced. Apparitions. Less frequently, stories might surface of shadowy figures or fleeting apparitions seen near the water's edge, particularly in areas that were once populated parts of the old towns. It's important to remember that these accounts are often anecdotal and can be influenced by the knowledge of the towns beneath the lake. The human mind is adept at finding patterns and explanations, especially in atmospheric or emotionally charged environments. 3. Lake Wendouree, Ballarat, Victoria. Lake Wendouree in Ballarat, Victoria, is a picturesque location with a history stretching back long before its formal establishment as a recreational lake. While its beauty is undeniable, it also holds whispers of tragedy and unexplained occurrences that contribute to its haunted reputation. Prior to European settlement, the area around Lake Wendouree was significant to the local Aboriginal people, the Wendouree. The lake, likely a natural shallow wetland or swamp fed by local creeks, would have been a vital source of food and water. The name Wendouree itself is believed to derive from a local Aboriginal word, with interpretations suggesting meanings like "go away" or "place of reeds." The gold rush era of the 1850s dramatically transformed the landscape. Ballarat became a booming town, and the need for a reliable water supply and recreational space grew. In the 1860s, the swampy area began to be formally developed into the lake we know today, with dredging and landscaping undertaken to create a more permanent and aesthetically pleasing body of water. Lake Wendouree quickly became a central feature of Ballarat, hosting rowing regattas, pleasure boats, and attracting picnickers and visitors. While specific, well-documented, haunted incidents at Lake Wendouree are somewhat elusive in official records, local folklore and anecdotal evidence suggest a number of recurring themes. Phantom rowers. Stories persist of shadowy figures seen rowing on the lake in the early hours or late evenings, only to vanish without a trace. These tales might be linked to the lake's strong rowing history and the spirits of past athletes. Unexplained sounds. Some accounts mention hearing faint whispers, cries, or the splash of oars when no one else is around, creating a sense of an unseen presence. Feelings of unease. Visitors and locals have reported experiencing sudden feelings of coldness, sadness, or being watched in certain areas around the lake, particularly near where tragic events may have occurred. Sightings in the water. There are occasional stories of strange shapes or figures briefly appearing beneath the surface of the water before disappearing. It's important to approach these accounts with a degree of skepticism, recognizing the power of suggestion and the way atmosphere can influence perception. However, the persistence of these stories within the local community indicates a belief, however anecdotal, in a lingering presence at Lake Wendouree. 2. Lake Burley Griffin, Canberra, Act. Lake Burley Griffin, the centerpiece of Australia's capital, Canberra, is a relatively young lake, its story unfolding entirely within the modern era of the city's creation. Unlike ancient natural formations, its history is intricately tied to the planned development of Canberra. Therefore, the concept of a history, before haunted, in a traditional sense is less applicable, as the lake itself didn't exist until the 1960s. Prior to the creation of Lake Burley Griffin, the area was a flood plain of the Mungo River, meandering through what would become the heart of Canberra. This plain was primarily used for grazing and agriculture. Scattered homesteads and rural settlements dotted the landscape. The Mungo River, though not a large or dramatic waterway, played a crucial role in the ecosystem, supporting native flora and fauna. When Walter Burley Griffin won the International Design Competition for Canberra in 1912, his visionary plan included a large artificial lake at the center of the city. However, the actual construction of the lake was delayed for decades due to political wrangling, world wars, and economic constraints. For many years, the Mungo River continued its natural course through the planned lake basin, and the surrounding land remained largely rural. Construction of the lake began in 1960 with the damming of the Mungo River, and it was officially filled in 1964. Named after the city's architect, Lake Burley Griffin rapidly became the focal point of Canberra, surrounded by national institutions, parks, and recreational areas. It transformed the landscape and the character of the city. Specific, well-documented, haunted incidents or encounters directly linked to Lake Burley Griffin are not widely reported in mainstream historical records or news archives. However, anecdotal accounts and local lore might exist. These could include stories of shadowy figures or unexplained movements seen on or near the lake, particularly at night. Feelings of cold spots or unease in certain areas along the shoreline. Whispers or unexplained sounds heard near the water. Rumors associated with specific tragic events, suggesting a lingering presence of those who were lost. It's important to note that these types of accounts are often subjective and lack concrete evidence. They tend to be part of local storytelling rather than verified paranormal events. 1. Lake George, New South Wales. Lake George in New South Wales is a place steeped in ancient history and more recent, often eerie, folklore. Known to the local Aboriginal people as Werriwa, potentially meaning bad water, this lake has witnessed millennia of change and human activity. Long before European settlers arrived, the area around Lake George was home to Aboriginal people for perhaps as long as 60,000 years. Archaeological evidence reveals backed artifact manufacturing workshops dating back to the late Holocene period, indicating a significant place for toolmaking and resource management. The name Werriwa hints at an early understanding of the lake's sometimes harsh and unpredictable nature, even when full, being notably saline. The first European to set eyes on the lake was Joseph Wilde in 1820. Later that year, Governor Lachlan Macquarie, during a tour, named it in honor of King George III, mistakenly believing it to be a permanent and substantial body of water. This perception would soon be challenged by the lake's dramatic fluctuations. In the mid-1830s, an ambitious attempt was made by a local landowner, Murray, to connect a nearby lagoon to Lake George via a convict-built canal. The aim was to provide a more reliable water source, but the project ultimately failed due to a slight difference in water levels. Ironically, the lagoon did eventually overflow, introducing Murray cod into the lake, which thrived for several decades before the lake completely dried during the Federation drought around the turn of the 20th century. The story of Lake George also involves a proposed capital city. In the early days of colonial Australia, the lake was considered as a potential site due to its size. However, when officials came to inspect, the lake was largely dry, putting an end to the vision of an Australian Venice. The haunted aspect of Lake George seems to have grown from a combination of its natural mysteries and tragic events. The lake's most striking characteristic is its tendency to seemingly disappear and reappear. This isn't due to mysterious underground rivers leading to other water bodies, as some folklore suggests, but rather its shallow basin, large surface area, and lack of significant river inflows, making it highly susceptible to evaporation and rainfall variations. Despite often being a dry grazing field, Lake George has been the site of drownings when filled. Perhaps the most well-known tragedy occurred in 1956 when 5 Duntroon Military College cadets drowned during a sailing exercise. This devastating incident undoubtedly contributed to a sense of unease and the lake's reputation as a place of potential danger. Furthermore, the eerie atmosphere of the often empty lakebed, with its stark landscape and the distant hum of the federal highway, can easily lend itself to tales of ghostly apparitions and unexplained phenomena. The lake has also been linked to stories of UFO sightings, adding another layer to its mysterious allure. Beyond the tragic drowning of the cadets, other incidents, though perhaps less widely known, would have contributed to the lake's narrative. The very fact that a substantial body of water could vanish and reappear would have been a source of wonder and perhaps fear for early inhabitants and travelers. While specific documented encounters with paranormal entities at Lake George are harder to pin down, the stories persist. These often involve feelings of unease, strange sightings across the empty lakebed, or a lingering sense of sadness associated with the site of the drownings. Local ghost tours capitalize on this folklore, guiding visitors through the area and sharing tales of the lake's haunted reputation and other mysteries.